and I'll never back down. In the middle of the ring is where I lay the smack down. Against all odds, I will always prevail. So when you step to me, it's like hell in a cell.
Welcome to another We Talk with myself, Delzinski, and as always, I am joined by Weeds.
You alright, mate? How's it going?
Yeah, I am good, thank you very much. How are you today?
I am fantastic for once. Bet you weren't expecting that, were you?
No, not really. I was expecting the negative comment to kickstart as per usual, but no. You've recovered from everything? The weather's all right?
There's nothing wrong with me today. I'm all hunky-dory.
Wow. Favourite this episode for sure.
It will likely be the only one.
Okay, so today we wanted to talk about something a bit more fun. On the Sunday episodes, we're looking at things that are a little bit different. So it's not current affairs or current topics in WWE. It's more based on things that in history or things that we find rather entertaining within the wrestling business. So today we are looking at the top 5 worst gimmicks, not just in the WWE, but across the wrestling industry. So, I mean, yeah, this is kind of interesting because
there's been quite a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah, there's been loads. So, I've got my top 5, and Weeds has got his top 5, and then we will obviously put it to you guys what you think your top 5 is. So, Weeds, do you want to kickstart with your top 5 worst gimmicks in the wrestling business?
Of course. One of mine, actually, I'm going to go number 5, I suppose. It's quite a recent one. Is Lord Tensai, latterly Tensai, before God knows what he's turned into recently. I think he might even be exiting the WWE very, very shortly. Came back, obviously, after being Prince Albert, which was an odd enough character in his first run in the WWE. Went off to Japan for a few years and came back with what could only be described as weird shit all over his face and a weird mask. And I think he came back. He did have a manager very briefly, didn't he, when he first came back?
Yeah, he didn't like him very much because he beat the crap out of him.
He did eventually beat the crap out of him, and I don't know, did this character suffer because it was a crap gimmick, or was it simply he got put up? I think his first opponent was John Cena, one of your favourites, of course. Yeah, he got buried by John Cena, and I think it was the fact that his manager used to cover him in talcum powder before he started a match as well. But at least he wasn't hairy. The second time he came back, he'd sorted all that back hair out. He didn't have any of that crap all over him as well, did he?
No, but you could say that Tensai is a better name than a Prince Albert, if you know what I mean.
Was the fact when he first came back they added Lord? It made no sense. Lord of what?
Yeah, but now he's got an even better gimmick because he's Sweet Tea.
Sweet Tea, yeah, well, yeah. As I said, I'm expecting him not to be with the WWE for very much longer.
Yeah, you got to feel sorry for him, really, to be honest. He went to Japan, revamped himself. I think it was Japan, and had this Tensai gimmick, and then WWE absolutely trashed it.
Well, at the end of the day, but when they announced, I was like, Tensai, who's this? All right, it's Albert. That's not going to work.
Didn't he actually get a chance to take on the Streak as well?
He did. Was he part of the tag match?
Yeah,
I think with the Big Show, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he got his moment.
Yeah. Well, he's infamous, I suppose. There are a couple of the Streak members that don't really get mentioned in, I think, the Streak mode in the game this year. And actually, I'm pretty sure either on your list or my list, there's probably going to be more people who are part of that streak on it as well.
Yeah. So number 5. Hello, who's that?
That's Siri in the background. I don't know why he's kicking off.
Is he putting in his top 5 as well?
Yeah, told me okay. Here we go.
Okay, get on with it.
Right, number 4. Another favourite of mine has been through many different versions of his character. Finally settled on Kevin Nash and Big Daddy Cool. But do you remember Kevin Nash before when he was Oz? I don't know if you do remember this. It's quite a while back. They dressed him, I don't know, for a lot of the WCW people back then were watching a lot of films. They obviously seemed to, being obviously part of Turner. And yeah, they did get inspired by a few of their films, so much so that they dressed Big Daddy Cool up as the Wizard of Oz. He came out with a turban, from what I remember, decked out in green in a very nice sequined emerald suit. And that was his gimmick. And I'm going to actually move him on to his next gimmick as well in WCW. Do you remember Vinny Vegas?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, well, least said about that, the better, I suppose. But obviously proving that you can survive a bad gimmick and go on to bigger and better things. Obviously, if you're booking everything yourself, you can do that anyway.
Yeah, if first you don't succeed, try again. He was the Jolly Green Giant before the Jolly Green Giant, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he might as well. If he was going to stick with Oz or Vinny Vegas, he might as well have stuck with Super Shredder out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. Kevin Nash has been through the mill, so to speak, with his gimmicks. And ultimately,
no wonder he books himself.
Yeah, ultimately came back to the decision that I can't have a gimmick. I've just got to be Kevin Nash. That's what it came down to. No more gimmicks for me. Yeah, Diesel wasn't that bad though.
I like Diesel, but I'm going to cover him because he actually comes up continuously, and that character, or the person playing that character, is Glenn Jacobs. Now he appears on my list. He appears on my list not only as fake Diesel, but also Isaac Yankem, DDS. Remember him at all? Deadly Dentist.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's on my list. Oh, I'll let you in here. He is on my list as well. He is on my list.
He is obviously so much hated now by Glenn Jacobs, Kane, that if you ask him questions about him in press conferences, he's liable to walk out more than anything else. I don't know if you remember the angle. It's from years ago. It was Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, I was going to say Jerry Lawler's personal dentist, wasn't he?
He was his personal dentist. Yeah. And I seem to remember there was an angle where they had, I think it was a Kiss My Foot match, and Bret Hart won and obviously made Jerry Lawler eat his own foot, which I think he'd been specially saving up for months and months.
Oh yeah, there was those promos, weren't there?
What
he'd been doing with his foot. Oh,
well, I was going to say he didn't get any better through the years, did he? Really, the king. And so obviously the foot went in his mouth, and then he brought in his personal dentist to come and sort him out. You know, as dentists do, when you get bad teeth in this situation, they come on and stick up for that particular wrestler. One of the very numerous odd times the WWF, WWE have tried to use a gimmick. But yeah, all I remember him was he was the dentist, obviously Glenn Jacobs, and he had the worst teeth in the history of teeth. From what I remember, them being yellow. I remember they had I think they fell out at times as well.
I've actually got a quote that was used to describe Isaac Yankem. But I will reserve that for when I actually reach him in my list, because there is a line that he was used to pretty much promote himself, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Cool. My next one on my list is the Giant Gonzalez.
So this is number 3, isn't it?
This is number 2. Number 2 on my list is Giant Gonzalez. So we've had Oz, Tensai.
Oh, you did. It was that bad a gimmick, I forgot.
Yeah, Giant Gonzalez, a.k.a. WrestleMania 9, which is probably one of the least remembered WrestleManias, mainly so because I remember Bobby Heenan coming in backwards on a camel, dressed in a toga. But yeah, the Giant Gonzalez, he was part 3 of the streak, obviously, following up after Jimmy Snuka and Jake the Snake Roberts. Yes, we got Elegante, Giant Gonzalez, Argentinian basketball player, and do you remember his costume?
Yeah, it looked like a beast of some sort.
The best way I can think to describe it is if you took a Wookiee out of Star Wars, shaved it badly, that would be the result, would be the giant Gonzalez. It'd be half Chewbacca. That would be what you were left with. And I don't know if you remember it. He had they basically had the suit where they had the muscles lined
Ripped.
in it.
He was proper ripped.
He was proper ripped, so much so that they felt the need to add hair in bits of places. But one place they didn't add hair was his arse crack, and he had the most muscly, muscle-skinned suit of his. I don't know if he had like a super anus power or whatever it was, but they didn't feel any need to put any hair around his butt.
I can't even say anything. Speechless by some of the lines you come out with. Super anus power kind of sums it all up.
And my last, and as I said, to make it clear now, I didn't rank these in any sort of order really. These are just my top 5 gimmicks, and I'm actually going to give a double award, and I hope that becomes clear why I give a double award. My first one is Repo Man. Do you remember the Repo Man?
Yeah, Smash from Demolition.
Yeah, and my second one goes to whatever they turned Crush into after he left Demolition as well. And the Demolition were one of my favourite tag teams. I was, really, really loved the feuds they had, the Heart Foundation, Legion of Doom, the Powers of Pain. And then they turned Smash into the Repo Man, whose, I think, only notable highlight was stealing the Macho Man Randy Savage's hat. And Crush, whose only notable things, I suppose, after that was that they made him come in looking out of Captain Planet. He was dressed in purple and yellow,
Flash Gordon style. He was ridiculous.
And he made Chronic look good later on in WCW. That's how bad this version of Crush was. And Crush wasn't very popular with me in the first place because obviously I loved Demolition, Axe and Smash, and then I was like, who's this guy? He's suddenly part of this tag team. He can apparently hold the belts when he feels like it. And yeah, that later incarnation of him as Purple and Yellow Crush, or Pineapple Crush, as I like to call him, is the only real thing I can remember. The highlight of that feud was with Doink the Clown. Remember Doink?
Yeah.
Evil Doink, who had his twin again, and this goes back to WrestleMania 9, so you can see this all circles around the same sort of time. I remember the evil twin of Doink the Clown, and I remember them smacking Crush over the head with a fake cast, I think, from his arm. And up until that point, I'd hated Doink the Clown until he leveled Crush, and then he was on my he was my fan favourite more or less from that point on.
So he'll be in your top 5 gimmicks, won't he?
Doink, yeah, he's
favourite gimmicks.
So that's my top 5. I know you had Isaac Yankem. Who else did you have?
Okay, my top 5. Right. So number 5, and this one is a little bit of an obscure one. I don't even know if you'll remember this one because it only literally lasted about 5 minutes. So it's good to have it number 5. But
the best ones do.
Yeah, this one. Do you remember a character called Beaver Cleavage?
I do not remember a character called Beaver Cleavage.
You don't remember this?
And I thought Super Anus Power was bad.
Look, I had to do some serious research. When we decided to pick these topics and we decided to do the worst gimmicks, I dug deep, yeah. I found...
Intel.
I dug deep into the cleavage of Beaver Cleavage, yeah.
Leave that there.
Right. Beaver Cleavage was played by almost just as bad a gimmick, a headbanger called Mosh.
Oh, I remember the headbangers.
Yeah, so headbanger Mosh was Beaver Cleavage, yeah. And he was managed by Mrs. Cleavage, which was Medusa. And you remember Medusa?
I remember Medusa from WCW.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the gimmick only lasted 1 month as as the character was so controversial due to the use of sexual innuendos, which ultimately led to its demise, and it was pulled from TV.
Sexual innuendo, that sounds like some sort of finishing move.
It probably was. I can't even remember it, but I definitely know it was bad. And I remember, actually, that just the name is terrible enough. And the fact that, as well, that they paired up Medusa, who was a pretty good wrestler, calling her Mrs. Cleavage, just about tops it off.
That does indeed.
So that was number 5. And if you do remember Beaver Cleavage, hit the like button, okay? And then number 4 right? This is an obvious one. This is just obvious. I went for the gobbledygooker, yeah? Because you can't forget the gobbledygooker. That bloody egg at the 1990 Survivor Series where it went on display and Mean Gene Okerlund then for freaking weeks went on about what is inside that egg. Nothing good was going to come from that egg. Nothing good. And when it finally hatched, it's a bloody man in the most ridiculous costume I have ever seen.
Yeah, I always used to love it when they used to build up these angles for ages and ages. I remember they did it with Halloween Havoc. I think it was 91 when they were going to go to the Chamber of Horrors, and they had people. I think it was Eric Bischoff back then. He was going back and he was reporting, I found the place where the location's going to be, and it turned out someone just stuck a chair inside a cage, and that's what made it Halloween Havoc. So yeah, it's when they build this stuff up, and eventually, all right, so in the egg there is a turkey. Okay, cool. Yeah. Makes sense.
And it just got out and gobbled around the ring. The whole crowd are just looking on thinking, what have I paid to come and see here? What is this?
Well, at least they learnt their lesson, because eventually I suppose the nearest thing you could probably compare to the gobbledygooker would be Pete Rose, and that was probably the only decent contribution Kane ever made, was every time he came out he tombstoned him, didn't he?
He did, and interestingly enough, that leads on to my number 3, which was, like you covered, Isaac Yankem, DDS. And I said that there was a quote, yeah. So when I did my research, right, this is what I found. Isaac Yankem was an evil dentist, which let his teeth deteriorate to show the rotten teeth idiots what happens when you don't take seriously oral hygiene. What?
See, this is why you don't let Lawler write stuff.
What was the what? It doesn't even make any sense. What? So I let my teeth deteriorate, so you lot know it's a bad thing to not go to the dentist.
Yeah, I hear Beaver Cleavage had a similar kind of motto.
I don't know what the hell his motto was.
Don't do as I do. Don't learn from my example.
Just absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, I can completely see why Kane, Glenn Jacobs, is absolutely adamant that he doesn't want to acknowledge Isaac Yankem in the slightest. On that note, and you touched on it earlier about Jerry the King Lawler with the foot in mouth match, or whatever the hell it was. This isn't one of my 5, but he actually shoved his foot in the mouth of the Portuguese man o' war, Aldo Montoya, a.k.a. Just Incredible.
Aldo Montoya.
So that gimmick was bad as well.
It's like they didn't even learn, because they came back and basically dressed Rocky Maivia up the same.
Well, yeah, apart from the fact that they got some yellow tape that you would put round your tennis racket and wrapped it round his head about 100 times, and that was his mask. It was just atrocious.
So he doesn't make the list, does he, or does he?
He doesn't make the list. He was just another ridiculous gimmick. Number 2 is a faction. Yes. And it's mean. It's real mean. It's the Mean Street Posse.
Oh, I remember them. They were from the rough streets of Greenwich, weren't they?
Yeah. Shane O'Mac's buddies, Pete Gass, Rodney, and Joey Abs. Why?
I've never seen such nice waistcoats, I think, and tank tops.
Yeah. They were the mean. And again, another thing that I found when I was doing my research for this was they were from the mean streets of Greenwich, Connecticut.
Isn't that like? I think that's one of the richest boroughs, isn't it, in America? Yeah. I'm assuming that's where Vinnie Mac comes from.
So you can tell that they're mean. And the sweaters, I think they were Argyle sweaters.
They were charming.
Yeah, and they used to wrestle in them. That was their actual attire, I think, if I remember rightly.
That was. I seem to remember them running most of the time, normally in steel cage matches or things like that, normally into the cage.
Shane O'Mac was the best dressed one. He used to have those baseball tops, didn't he? With Shane O'Mac and then McMahon on the back.
Yeah. I love Shane O'Mac. Here comes the money.
This wasn't money, by the way.
No,
this was by far from it. Okay.
Cool. So who's your number 1?
Number one. I don't even have to say very much when I say number one. Number one is Val Venis, and all I've got to say is choppy choppy your PP, or choppy choppy your PP.
Yeah, I remember that angle. That angle was brilliant. Oh god, that was around the same sort of time they were doing a lot of dodgy stuff around that sort of time, weren't they? Because they obviously bringing a porn star out as a character is bad enough.
You based it on a porn star.
Isn't that the same sort of time where they had? I think they had the Austin Brian Pillman angle, where I think they cut off with Raw with "He's got a gun, he's got a gun."
Yeah,
do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Didn't the gun go off as well?
I don't know. We talking about Pillman or Val Venis here?
Both.
Who was the girl involved in that angle of PP choppy choppy?
It wasn't.
Was there? Oh, was it because he was having?
Was it Ryan Shamrock?
It might be.
Or was it Terry Reynolds?
It might be Terry Reynolds. He was having because he was making advances towards her, and this was to sort him out, wasn't it? Let's get the triads in.
Let's be honest. He was having a lot of people at that time, probably anyway, wasn't he?
Exactly. Well, we've got two quite extensive lists there. I think probably quite debatable lists as well.
Ultimately, as terrible as each other. To be honest, these lists epitomise the terrible gimmicks that the WWE has made us sit through. But ultimately, I feel that if we didn't have these terrible gimmicks, we wouldn't be the wrestling fans that we are today.
Of course. You got any honourable mentions?
I'll let you go first, I think.
Oh, I've definitely got some. So you can't have one of these lists without, as we've always, I think whenever we need cheering up, we just Google Shockmaster, don't we?
Bang, falls through the wall.
And when they brought him back, what did they bring him back as?
The Super Shockmaster. Well, when he fell through the wall, the gimmick was so bad that he walked away, and then they brought him back as like a part-time builder with a hard helmet on.
Yeah, well, he looked like part of the Village People, didn't he? Really, yeah. He was going to be there singing YMCA most of the time.
But the best bit, Weeds, is they weren't done. They were not done, because then they decided, WCW, as they do, is look. This is not done yet. We have to bring him back again, and they repackaged him as the Super Shockmaster, which looked like a fat luchador, and that's all I can describe it as.
Yeah, well, they'd obviously trademarked that name and paid good money for it, and they were going to get their money's worth one way or the other. Other mentions, you can't have one of these without mentioning the Dungeon of Doom. Do you remember the Dungeon of Doom from WCW?
Yes, I do.
This was when Kevin Sullivan was the booker, and basically any kind of weird shit, he kind of you pretty much knew it was coming from him. So I remember, I think it culminated eventually as Hulk Hogan had been through everyone from the Barbarian to Sullivan himself, and then they brought in Loch Ness, who, from what I can remember, was giant haystacks from the UK. And again, less said about that, the better. Another honourable mention, and this is going to be quite a controversial one, and it's one I was toying with putting in my list, but the gimmick is not bad at the end of the day. But how it's been dealt with for these, it must be at least 15 years now, probably longer than that, and that's Kane. Where do you stand on Kane?
Yeah, I've done a video about Kane before, about how they've carried Kane over the years, and he should be much better than what he is. He's not anything near the same level of what they brought him in originally as, with The Undertaker.
That's it. He's had two great characters I've liked the first one when he came in, Bad Blood, I think, in 97, and just was destroying everyone. I remember he took out Vader with a hammer, of all things, and you thought, this guy's a monster. And then I like the sadistic one where he eventually shaved his head, and he was literally crazy. He didn't know what he was going to do, but eventually he always makes his way back to the fun character, hanging out with X-Pac, or
hanging out with X-Pac,
or teaming with Rob Van Dam,
crotch chopping with X-Pac.
Yeah, I mean, how can this character be? And this is why I potentially wanted
smoking
to put him on this
weed
list.
with RVD.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can this character? He's this sadistic killer who, all rights by the storyline, burnt down his parents' house, and then he suddenly, he's smoking a fatty in the back with Rob Van Dam.
Well, he did go for counselling with Daniel Bryan, didn't he? So
exactly.
Topped it off.
I think I'm going to give him credit because he's had more gimmicks to his character than I suppose anyone in the history of a wrestling character, but his character's survived. So that's what I get out of the Kane. He's a survivor.
The only other ones I had, really, and they're all ultimately stupendous or redonkulous. Max Mini, why? Do you remember Max Mini? Why?
Is it Max Moon or Max Mini?
Well, I found Max Mini. Which was
Was this the guy that was Conan eventually?
No, this.
Oh right, so we found two gimmicks here. This was the same crap name.
this was a midget, and then they based a whole wrestling I don't know what you want to call it, division around Max Mini because they had all these other little tiny luchadors running around, and I just don't understand it. And then on top of that, I'm adding Hornswoggle. Look, nothing against small people and anything of that sort, but it's just the way that they packaged them were just degrading and stupid.
He's another survivor.
Yeah. I mean, how I don't know, but it's just WWE sometimes. Come on. The other one that I had was Timothy Well and Christopher Dunn. Well done. What is the point of that? I mean, and they both wore dicky bow ties and had lips all over their costumes. Come on, please. What are these part-time? I don't know. I
was going to say, if you're going to go down that route, what about Juice and Domino? Do you remember those?
Yeah. Oh. Oh, please. Were they the Elvis impersonators?
They were like the 50s throwback guys. I think they even held the titles for a month or so before they eventually worked out this wasn't Back to the Future. We hadn't travelled back in time in a DeLorean, and we probably needed to keep it a little bit more current than the 1950s.
Oh my God.
So yeah, there's been a lot, mate. There has been a lot.
Yeah, we could literally go on forever. The only other one I will touch on is Duke the Dumpster Droese.
Awesome. Taking
out the trash. Yes, that is our list. You've heard our top 5 and more for that matter. I don't know. I'm absolutely speechless, to be honest. But guys, let us know via the comments box below what your top 5 worst gimmicks in wrestling history are. It'd be great to hear what you think. If there are any that we've missed, let us know.
There certainly will be.
There's tons. If you dig enough, you can find... I don't know. I don't want to know. But I do want to know. Okay, guys. I think that'll do for today and this episode of We Talk. So all that's left to be said from me and Weeds. Do you want to sign out?
Yep, I'm going off to Google Beaver Cleavage. So I'll see you next time.
Oh, mate. Why? Yes, until next time, all that's left to be said, please rate, comment and subscribe. And until the next We Talk, this is Delzinski and Weeds signing out.